Hey gamers, Gecko here. Sorry for no video yesterday, as you can probably still hear in my voice. It hurt to talk. I got a little bit excited about the announcements that happened at EVO, as well as the top 8, and let's be real, the entire Strive tournament itself. There was a lot of amazing things that happened over the course of the EVO weekend, some of which I have covered on this channel, some of which I haven't been able to, and probably won't get around to. If you're an Invincible Versus fan, I'm sorry. But there is one major thing that has captured the imagination of me and everybody else in the Guilty Gear Strive community. The announcement of 2.0. If you somehow missed it, go check on Sunday's video. But Guilty Gear Strive had an announcement after the Lucy trailer in which they said we were going to be entering a new era. The era of 2.0. When Guilty Gear is updated, anytime we get some kind of the version number increases by 0.01. This is unless it is an entirely new season, in which case the version number goes up by 0.1. So, any version that is 0.0 will be the release of the game. 0.1 was Season 1, 0.2 was Season 2, 0.3 was Season 3, and 0.4 has been Season 4. Anytime a new character is added or a balance change happens, it increases by 0.01. The current version of the game is 1.47. 1.47 fixed a couple of small issues and there was no major character added, but they still increased the version number. Just so you know that the bugs were fixed. This has been how the system has gone for ages, and theoretically we would have hit 2.0 eventually. However, it would have taken us 6 more seasons, which I love Strive, but even that's a bit much. So that's left a lot of people wondering, if they're increasing the entire version of the game to 2.0, what exactly does that mean? Well, to put it in old terms, it seems like Guilty Gear Strive is going to be getting some kind of title update. If you don't remember, a title update was a new version of the game that came out that you would buy. This was a tradition that happened all the way up to Guilty Gear Xrd. Guilty Gear Xrd had actually around 3 title updates. The original one was Sign, then we had Revelator, and then of course, we had Rev 2. This practice was much more common in ye olden days. If you've ever tried to look at Guilty Gear XX, you may have noticed that there are so many versions of that game, and that's because it constantly got title updates. It used to be somewhat of a necessity. Before the rise of the internet, developers weren't able to change their games as easily. If they wanted to tweak anything in the game, they would have to send out a redistribution disc, or even back in the arcade days, send someone out to apply the changes to the arcade board. So if they were going to make changes, they might as well make a whole new version of the game. Nowadays, though, you can just download the changes directly from the developers. Or, well, from the distributors that take the version of the game from the developers. That's why we don't really have title updates anymore. Because of that, the tradition of the title update kind of died. It was a lot easier to get people to stay on your game if you just updated one version continuously rather than resell them the same game, but again. Arxis started doing the newer system around Dragon Ball FighterZ and the end of Guilty Gear Xrd. And it's been something that stayed with the company ever since. But that still leaves the question of what 2.0 is. Strive has gotten kind of regular balance updates since its launch, and it's definitely had some major ones that have massively shaked up the gameplay. So, what should we expect from 2.0? Well, I have 2 different examples of Arc System Works games that have had major 2.0 version shifts, and I think we could glean what Guilty Gear Strive 2.0 is going to be just by looking at them. Before that, real quick, if you would like to keep up to date on all the Guilty Gear news as it comes out, as well as other Arc System Works games, make sure to subscribe down below. I want to try and hit 10k this month, because we've had a really successful weekend at EVO. I want to try and keep that train rolling. Thank you all so much for the support. Thank you if you just subscribed. Now, onto the examples. The first one is actually a pretty recent and relevant one. I'm of course talking about Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. If you don't know, Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising originally had a different version of the game, being Granblue Fantasy Versus. It came out around 2020, literally just before the pandemic hit, so it didn't ever get the chance that it really needed. especially because it had delay-based netcode. But then, ArcSys announced that they were working on Rising. Rising was a complete overhaul of the game, with things to impress the casual and competitive players alike. To begin with, all the characters that were added to the original Granblue were now base kit in Rising, along with 4 new characters specific to that game. They completely rebalanced the old systems and changed how they worked. The most infamous one, which you might have heard of, was making the simple inputs and motion inputs the same cooldown length. They also added new systems, such as the Bravery system, that changes how you go about combos and defense. On top of this, there were a bunch of single-player and casual modes added to the game. There was a new story based around the characters that were all in Rising. There was a casual multiplayer mode called Granbrews. They added cosmetics that could be unlocked through battle passes. And they released a free edition of the game to get people through the door. Oh, and of course, they added rollback netcode. If you're interested in Rising, by the way, I'm streaming it right now. The new character just came out, and I wanted to check him out, so go to the Twitch down below. This came at the cost of having to rebuy the whole game. If you wanted to play Granblue with all its new features and all the shiny new things, along with rollback netcode, you would have to pay about 40 English pounds in order to get this new version of the game. Granted, that is why the free edition exists, so that people can go and try the game out, and even maybe compete if they're willing to play Gran. This is a much more traditional type of title update. They literally changed the title, and they added a bunch of things on top of the already existing game. It is still fundamentally Granblue. If you were good at the original Granblue, you're probably good at Rising, but it is very much its own distinct game. There's also a couple of back-end things they've seemingly done. They made it a lot easier for developers to put things into the game, which I want to talk about a little bit later. But just know they did definitely touch some stuff up about Granblue and its engine. Now, the second option is a little bit more infamous. There's a tag game that seemingly everyone, apart from Marvel Tokon, is trying to copy nowadays. It was really innovative with the way that you use your assists and fight with your team. I'm, of course, talking about BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, the game that everyone seems to be ripping off. BB Tag actually had a major update that was called BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle 2.0. This is seemingly the only other time that ArcSys has used this moniker for any game. So what was in 2.0? Well, there was a absolutely massive balance patch that touched up several of the characters in the game, as well as adding several new features to everyone. Some of them were universal mechanics, but some characters did get nice quality of life changes. There was a massive DLC drop that you could buy separately, but you didn't have to rebuy the whole game to get the 2.0 experience. If you wanted all the new characters, you had to drop around £20. But this was for 9 new characters, which is kind of insane looking at the season passes we have nowadays. They also added a little bit of new single-player content to use the new characters that they added in a interesting way. And that was just about it. This was before the mass adoption of rollback netcode, so there was no changes behind the scene on how the game worked. This is a smaller 2.0 kind of update. The version number does get increased, and the balance patch is available to everyone, but it doesn't seem as if there's as much going on behind the scenes. ArcSys obviously thought it wasn't enough to re-release the game, so they just added all of the characters in a 2.0 bundle. Now, these are the kind of updates I'm expecting from 2.0, but there is a very big glaring difference between the two of them, and I'm sure you've noticed. The Rising update was definitely a lot bigger than BB Tag's update. They added entire new system mechanics, as well as adding 4 new characters and all of the DLC that you could buy while repackaging the game. But everyone had to pay for it. BB Tag, on the other hand, simply updated their game and gave a massive new season pass for everyone to play with. And this seems to be the big question of the Strive community right now. Is this going to be a title update, or is it going to be a massive season update? with us getting massive changes across seasons, I do think it would be a little bit strange for them to drum up as much hype for 2.0 as they are doing, and then just have it be seemingly like another update. This kind of pushes me to the thought process of it's going to be a Rising type situation. A full title update with a new release of the game that we all have to buy into. But Strive just announced their most recent sale figures, and it's 3.5 million players. That's a lot of people who have already bought Guilty Gear, the most out of any of the game's history. Granblue did okay when it came out, but it was nowhere near pulling these levels of numbers. Because of this, I think it would be a massive shame for them to force us to re-buy the whole game. You already have a large install base there that is willing to jump into the game. So making the whole update free while adding the DLC characters would make more sense. Although, I'm not sure if that's the plan either. 2.0 seems to be a massive thing that they're doing. The lead producer of the game said that it is something big, they're drumming up hype about it, and they even added 2 massively requested characters, one which was seemingly never going to be added because he was part of Venom's kit. I'm sure now you can kind of see why it's a bit of a confusing mess, but I do have a small amount of hope for this update. Well, okay, I have a big amount of hope for this update, but from the consumer angle, I have a bit of hope. If you don't know, Guilty Gear's backend seems to be a bit of a fucking mess. I'm no developer, but the networking that goes into Guilty Gear Strive has always been pretty dog shit. Arxis have put a lot of band-aids on the system so that it works kind of reliably now, but especially when it originally launched, it was obvious that there were problems that the developers couldn't necessarily address in time. The hope is for me that they do what Rising did to their back end while still giving some kind of boost or leg up for the consumer. If they do it so that they rework the entire back end so the networking works a lot better and is a lot easier for people to just get into matches while having a massive balance update and new DLC characters, I think it could do absolute wonders for Strive. But if it is that big, Arxis is probably going to want to make their money back from it. So, what do? I imagine they wouldn't want to lose the 3.5 million players they already have, but right now, if you want to buy Guilty Gear with all the DLC characters, it costs you like £80, which, that's kind of ridiculous, honestly. So, here's how I would do it. If you already own Strive and all of its DLC, the update for you is completely free. If you don't own all of the DLC, you can still buy them separately, but if you own the original version of Strive, you can pay £5 to £10 to get the rest of the DLC you don't own. This is obviously a case-by-case basis. If you're missing one DLC, like you hate Dizzy or something and you never bought her, it'd probably just be easier to buy Dizzy. If the characters you don't have unlocked are ones that you don't want, you just wouldn't buy it. But if there were always characters that you wanted to try and there was more than 3 of them, it becomes a better deal than buying them separately. Strive is then repackaged for around £40-ish, and it comes with all of the original DLC characters. Then, on top of that, they add a free version to the game. If you originally owned Strive, you still have a copy of it. You're not on the free version. Any characters you already owned are ones that you already have. And you specifically have the option to pay the little fee. But if you want to try the game and play it for a little bit, you can play the free version that has Kai and Sol in it, as well as a couple of rotating characters. It'd basically be like Granblue's free version, but better, because you could buy whatever characters you want, because this is my utopia, and I think that's a good idea. If you want to buy the individual character, it's $5.99, and it stops you from having a free trial of the account. If you want to have all of the base season characters, you pay the base game price, which is basically half of the price of what the current Blazing edition is that gives you all of the DLC characters. And we continue with the season pass model. So, 4 or 5 characters every year, you pay a season pass, you get all of them. This does leave a little awkward situation of what if you want to play the new characters that were added specifically to 2.0, but if you cough up a $5, you could get them with the like transfer thing. I'm not a businessman, but this is my ideal, my perfect utopia. My 5 more years. I think something like this would be really good, though. You keep the majority of the player base that you already have by allowing them to access the game. If they want to play any of the new characters, they have an easier way of getting into it, and the new players that show up because of this update have an easy way of checking it out and an easy way of getting in. Of course, I think if they're going to do a bunch of things to the back end, they're probably going to try and find a way to add cosmetics, because let's be real, it's done fucking gangbusters in Granblue. So giving the consumer a little bit of a leg up and a little bit of an easier time getting into the game would be really nice. Do I think this is what's going to happen? No. If I'm going to be 100% real with you, I think it's going to be a Rising situation. I think they're going to repackage the full game, and they're going to make us pay for it again. I really hope they don't do that, and if they do, I hope there's an easier way for people who already own Strive to get back into it, but we shall see. I am expecting massive balance updates, though. Massive changes across the board. Because of that, I'm basically seeing the update we're getting in a couple of weeks as a mid-season update. People have also tried to theorize around when we're going to get this update, and I think the artists are being kind of smart about it. If you don't know, the Arc World Tour has never coincided with seasons coming out. However, the 2.0 update is very vague on when it's going to come out. The Arc World Tour ends in about March. The last qualifying event before the last chance qualifier is in February, so end of February, start of March is probably when we're going to hear more about what 2.0 actually is. I know, it's a long wait, but remember, we waited a year for Lucy. I think they're going to use this as a kicking off point to start seasons around August time and end them at the start of the year. It's smart. If you really think about it, if you apply your brain to it, it's quite a smart play. So because of that, I expect for the next balance patch to be around for quite a few months, and for 2.0 to not be around until around halfway through next year. Likelihood is it's probably going to be out before EVO next year, but who knows? We'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this helped a little bit with demystifying what 2.0 may be. Let me know your theories in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Go check out the Twitch. Again, we're playing the new Granblue character. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!